Alexa. I'm head of community at Housecall Pro.
My name is Roland. I'm one of the co-founders of Housecall Pro.
We host the Pro Talks webcast series. You can think of it as a TED Talk for people of the trades and blue-collar workers.
So when the pandemic hit, there was a lot of information coming from the federal government, from the local governments, and we wanted to make sure that we could take that information, deconstruct it, make it simple and actionable for our home service professionals to be able to make sure that the money coming from the government would hit their banks so that they could stay open and ultimately growing.
So it started off as a response, has really turned into this amazing public service, and we've had the opportunity to have on so many incredible guests to our show.
We have hundreds of live viewers, and the recorded version gets viewed millions of times. Our audience consists of home service professionals and small business owners. Join us and make season 2 the best season yet.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We have another great edition of Pro Talks lined up right here today for everybody listening. We've got Josh Latimer in the house. Hello. Thank you for joining us. For those of you guys that don't know Josh, he is quite famous. I see him all over the Facebook groups and a lot of different places. But I want to give you just a quick intro, maybe where he started, and then we'll jump in his own history a little bit down the road. So you were working at JP Morgan Chase. And at some point you said, I'm going to leave that safe, secure job, that security blanket, and you started your local cleaning business. A lot of people thought you were crazy, even your own mom. And after 2 years of figuring out, you finally got there, and you did it via implementing systems. So you built those in your business, you tripled your revenue, and from that day forward, you just started building this automated machine. I know you've got a huge passion for helping small businesses, understanding systems and automation. And so in 2015, you sold your business. And by the way, great business name, Bird Beware, window cleaning, obviously a play on words when it comes to windows. So when you did that, you moved to Costa Rica, which is crazy. You went there with your family and now you're back. So we are going to dive into that a little bit and we want to get to know you a little bit more. So we've got this set of questions lined up for you. Alexa, do you want to kind of walk into it?
So, Josh, welcome to we like to call it the Greenberg round. It's our version of the lightning round, so our viewers can get to know you and just get to know you a bit more, and so we can get to know you a bit more. So I'm going to start us off. Josh or Joshua?
You can call me Joshua if you're mad at me, otherwise Josh.
Okay.
What did you have for breakfast?
I did not have breakfast today.
All right. How many kids do you have?
5.
Favorite part of Alaska, because you just visited?
The Kenai Peninsula. It's just south of Anchorage, about 3 hours, and it's like unbelievably mythical and magical if you're into that type of thing. You have your mountain people and your beach people. I'm more of a mountain guy, so Alaska is my digs.
I could tell you're a mountain guy. I don't know what it is about you.
Look at his shirt. See?
Lumberjack. I have an actual axe in here. I'll grab it. Oh, yeah, right here.
Who just has an axe on hand?
Yeah.
Right
See,
here.
he's not
Keep
messing around.
Wood.
There we go. Keep chopping.
Chopping wood.
Okay.
Motivating.
Don't get on Josh's bad side. He has an axe on him at all times. Life-changing book, podcast, or course you've taken or read?
I think the biggest life-changing book for me was when I was 18. I read 2 of them. One was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's when I opened my eyes that entrepreneurship was even a thing. I hadn't even considered it up until then. The second one was How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is one of the best sellers of all time. Read both of those super young and had a profound effect on me.
Oh, great books. All right. Something not a lot of people know about you. Maybe something you've never shared, even on your own podcast.
Well, I was a quarterback of our high school football team, and I was prom king. And we lost our homecoming game 69-0 because we were terrible.
That's very brave of you to share that. I didn't know where that was going. And
I know. That's funny. And you're married to your high school sweetheart too, huh? So she
was like the MVP of the cheerleader team. They were way better than the football players, and we lived a mile apart. It's like this little all-American story, basically.
That is awesome. And to round off our Greenberg round, what's your best business analogy? We know you have a lot of them.
Business analogy, like would a quote suffice?
Sure.
Okay, I think one of my favorites is everybody sees the wine, but no one sees the crushing of the grapes. And I've had my grapes crushed many times in all of my businesses, and there's like a double entendre with that that metaphor. But basically, it's easy to look at the end result of someone who's worked in slave decades or, built this mega multi-million-dollar thing and just kind of dismiss all the pain and suffering that went into it day after day for year after year. So I try to remind myself of that when I see really successful people that I look up to.
Well, this is a perfect segue into the main part of our interview right now. So Josh, can you please share your background and area of expertise with marketing?
Well, sure. I mean, the foundational cornerstone of every business that's a for-profit venture on the planet, regardless of country or language or anything, is marketing. It's the bedrock. You don't have a business unless there's water coming out of the spigot, so to speak, right? So a lot of the reasons small companies get stuck and stay there for a long time is because they don't understand how to market properly. So they do understand how to do a good job, meaning they're a nice guy, they're reliable, they answer their phone, and that's going to give you a certain level of organic lead flow and traffic and deal flow. And that's great. But to scale something really big, you have to make a ruckus. You have to make some sort of noise. You have to figure out how to control the volume of deal flow that you get. And that's really what marketing is.
Yeah, I feel like oftentimes you talk about a lever. It's something that if you pull a little bit harder, then something known comes out the other side. And you pull a little bit harder and a little bit more. Whereas some of that organic stuff you mentioned, you don't have a lot of control besides just doing great work, which obviously will work and compound in the long run, but really building out those marketing levers.
Yeah, so the way that I kind of explain it to people, and I learned all this the hard way. I didn't go to college. I went to community college for like 5 minutes. I always tell people I stopped by. I don't have a silver spoon. I was the first entrepreneur in my family. I had cars repossessed. My electricity shut off. I mean, we were broke and ate beans and rice for almost 3 years. My pregnant wife's debit card was declined trying to buy groceries when I was building my first real company. And, going from there to, I've actually built and sold 3 different businesses now. And I've learned a lot, right? But the way I explain marketing in terms of levers is there's 2 types of marketing. You have proactive marketing, and then you have reactive marketing. Both of these are good. None of them are bad, but they're very different. So an example of reactive marketing would be something like, organic Google leads, or technically even Google AdWords, right? So let's say you're in a small town in Indiana and people say carpet cleaning, Muncie, Indiana. You might get 36 people a month searching that and clicking on your thing. That's awesome. We want that. But it's reactive marketing. And what I mean by that is I can't make those 36 searchers turn into 103 searchers. So there's a cap on the volume of deal flow I'll get through that channel. It's still good. Even things like referrals, you can increase your referrals, but you can't, 100 extra referral. Like there's going to be some sort of cap or something like Angie's List or Home Advisor. People debate on whether those are good or bad. There are other examples of reactive marketing, meaning it's not really a lever. There's going to be a fixed limit on the amount of leads you get from that's outside of your control. Now, proactive marketing, on the other hand, is where you have some semblance in some level of predictability over the quantity of new deals that you get. And these can be simple things like passing out door hangers. Technically is proactive marketing. If you do it enough and you're organized, you might find, like we did in my case, in my cleaning company, that every card we passed out was worth $4.36 in revenue to my business. And I could do 1,000 cards, I could do 100,000 cards, I could do 200,000 cards. You can scale it depending on how big your market is, but that's kind of a differentiator. And to put a bow on that, what we mean by a lever is getting to the place with a proactive marketing strategy where you can put $1 in the top of a box, pull a lever, and $8 or $10 comes out the bottom of the box. That's kind of the metaphor of a scalable marketing system.
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits obviously is once you have that in place, then all the other things really start to fall. So for example, when you start doing the marketing, you pull that lever, all of a sudden you got a bunch of work, you need to go fulfill on the work. Then you got to make sure you've got the team. Then you got to make sure you've got all the processes in place. Then you need to go produce on that. And then if you pull a little bit harder, you need to go kind of continue to build the last pieces there to do the fulfillment side. So I feel like without that true marketing lever, you're going to have a hard time predictably building that back half, because otherwise you're going to be subject to seasonality. I know a lot of our pros listening here have shoulder seasons, high seasons, low seasons. And obviously by having a lever like this, you can help combat some of that and spend your way through some of that as well.
Yeah, it's tough. And whenever you market hard or you grow revenue, everything's going to break inside your business. That's why they call revenue a stress metric, which is like this fancy business term of everything will light on fire and break, right? Or even you guys as a startup company hiring hundreds of people and you have VCs and you're doing this, it's just a mess. But, for me, that type of pressure is way more desirable than the pressure of where can I make payroll next week? Where's my next meal going to come from? And so you're always going to have in any service company either a sales problem or a personnel problem for the most part. And so your marketing side of your business is supposed to be kind of putting pressure and stressing out your team. So you're hiring and training and disciplining and putting systems. And then once they're dialed in, you have a bigger team. Now you have a need for more revenue. You got to feed the beast. There's more mouths to feed. And so then you scale up your marketing even bigger, stress out the team again. It's like a teeter-totter. It's like, sales and people, all the way.
Yeah, I feel like a teeter-totter or like a ladder. You can't climb up the ladder just going up the left side or up to the right side. You got to go left hand, right hand, left foot, right foot to kind of get up the top there. So let's talk a little bit about strategies, things that are working right now for a lot of the businesses that you're coaching and talking to. What seems to be working in today's environment, kind of given where we're at with the pandemic and everything?
This is kind of a loaded question. I mean, I've personally worked with over 1,000 home service companies in the last 5 years. And by personally, I mean on the phone, on Zoom, working with them through a variety of different ways. And so doing that, you notice like patterns and trends. You notice consistencies and on the bad side and on the good side. The people that are succeeding, it's like, that's interesting. Like you can connect the similarities. And then the people that are stuck, you can collect the similarities. I mean, why is it that maybe 2 or 3% of people will build a multi-million-dollar business and everybody else has a pretty small stuck business? In fact, there's a lot of family companies that do 3, 4, 500,000 a year, and they'll do that for like 20 years. And in like this 3 to 500,000 range, my friend Mike Dahlke calls it cash flow purgatory, but they'll scale up to that and then they get stuck for decades. But then you have other people, like a friend of mine named Wesley Bloom. Shout out to Wesley. He's 25 years old. He's going to do $1 million this year. He's only done his business full time for a few seasons, but he's got this focused tunnel vision. He's obsessed with systems. He's just executing. He's crushing it, right? And so it's a big conversation, I guess, to answer that. But in terms of some of the things that are working, all of the fundamental things that have always worked are working. So there might be some changes in tactics, but the principles behind it are universal. So what I mean is you got to go talk to people. You have to make noise. You have to make a ruckus. The people that are getting steamrolled right now is because they're paralyzed. They're living in total fear. I will give a little bit of room to say that, on the commercial side for a lot of businesses, that slowed way down because there's bureaucracy. So if you're doing cleaning services or some sort of services for large corporate clients, that's definitely ratcheted down. But on the residential side, the demand hasn't really changed. If anything, in my opinion, the demand is higher. When people were quarantined, they're stuck in their house. They're noticing every little thing that's broken and wrong. They know they need a plumber. They're finally going to get the new countertops. They want to do all this stuff. And a lot of the people we've worked with have exploded as soon as the states, got out of quarantine. So are we living in weird times? Yes, majorly weird times. But I think the opportunity is in the fundamentals. It's like doing a great job proactively marketing, making offers. If you want to make more money, you make more offers, you do more marketing. But unfortunately, I've seen a huge amount of businesses get super freaked out, pull back, and really it just opens up more opportunity for the hungry people that kind of see it the correct way.
So obviously the fundamentals are important, but when we spoke last, you said in order to see some different success, you have to be willing to put yourself out there, be edgy, think outside of the box. But that is difficult for some people to do because your first initial gut reaction is, I am paralyzed in this. I don't know what's going to work because messaging, you have to be really careful about messaging these days. So can you give some examples of some more out of the box type marketing strategies that you would recommend?
Well, one out of the box. So the reason I even have some of the out of the box marketing is because, just to back up, I feel like I've lived in two worlds. And Roland comes from internet marketing world with a software company. And I live in that world because I also have a software company. and I've sold information products. I have a company with my partner, Brandon Bond, that does education and stuff. So I've done like webinar, online marketing, landing pages, funnels, that whole world. And there's all these things I know over here. And then from a local brick and mortar kind of home service company, there's other types of marketing, right? And so I feel like I have an advantage because I'm seeing like strategies that maybe other people don't see. I think industries sometimes are siloed off. So you got your pest control industry, and maybe there's a few influencers in there that teach how to grow your pest control business, and they're all kind of saying the same type of thing. But I like to mix and match all of those things. So one of the best strategies that's a long-term play that I always say has a 100% success rate is called the Dream 100. It's really simple, very, very simple. And basically you data mine a list. By data mining, I mean create a spreadsheet, and you're going to put down the decision maker's name at maybe 100 influential people that you need to know. You've heard the phrase, your network is your net worth. It's like some cheesy business quote or something, but it's true though. Relationships are everything in business. So what a Dream 100 list is, what would it do for your company if the top realtors, top property managers, the top CEOs, the mayor of your town, the leaders of other local businesses in your town, what if they knew you on a first name basis, and you're at the grocery store and they say, "Oh, Alexa, what's up? How you been? Oh, how's little Johnny doing?" And so this strategy is just getting organized around initiating real relationships with influential people. That is 100% thing that will always work. It's just a long tail strategy. Another thing that works that a lot of service companies don't think about is joint venture marketing. This is insanely powerful. So you take two service companies that have non-competing services, but they serve a similar demographic, and you market to each other's list. Your book of business is your biggest asset for most of these service companies. Most service companies don't market to their own clients, not even close to enough. But even if they do, what if you partnered with a lawn care company and you're a pest control company? Or what if you're a carpet cleaner and you get a window cleaner and you guys start endorsing each other? What if you have leave behinds that you leave at every job and you have like a co-op type thing? You can do this with multiple companies. I've seen people do it even with like ringless voicemails, where lawn care company will ringless voicemail 1,000 of their lawn care clients to say, "Hey, sorry I missed it. This is Josh with ABC Lawn Care. We get a lot of questions from our customers about, if we know any other good service companies. So it's just a courtesy call to let you know we actually do have a partner company here that does window cleaning, and this is what they do, and blah, 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 blah. We're going to send you an email about it, so don't even worry about calling us back. We just wanted to serve you, and, it's hard to know who to trust. These guys are the best in our area. If you have any questions, let me know." 1,000 voicemails goes out, right? Well, then the carpet cleaning company does the same thing on behalf of the lawn care company. So joint venture marketing, Dream 100, those two things alone could add 6 figures to your business, right? And they're definitely outside of the box.
Oh, that Dream 100 strategy, everyone should leave here making that list. And if you start writing down the list, go look in your Facebook friends. You're a small business, and there's a high likelihood that someone in your network knows those people. Have them introduce you online. Everyone is doing virtual coffee nowadays. Even if you just chat for like 5-10 minutes, you're starting to add those people to your network. I think I might even make a Dream 100 of people I wish I knew. I don't even have a home service business. So I just think that's a great idea all around.
Well, you hear people talk about customer acquisition costs. It's just a normal thing. Like, okay, how much can I spend to get a new customer, right? But what you don't hear people talk about, which I don't know that I made this up, but I don't hear it talked about in home services, is influencer acquisition cost. So if I can spend $150 to acquire one brand new shiny residential customer, wouldn't I spend $1,500 to acquire a deep, like authentic relationship with an influencer who's a doorway to 50 residential clients? Like, doesn't that make sense? But people are super scarcity mindset. They think super short term. They're playing too short of a game, I guess. So one thing Russell Brunson said one time that blew my mind was that amateurs focus on the front end and professionals focus on the back end. And so with a home service company, what I think about with that is a lot of these little businesses, they're just trying to they're looking like 7 to 14 days in the future, and all of their effort is doing that. But the big companies, they think a little differently. They think strategically, it's more long-term. There's a lot of differences, but one of the big differences is just the long-term thinking. So what if you had a real relationship? What if you spent money and mailed these people things? That's what I did. We got a contract with General Motors on my cleaning business that was over $300,000 a year, squeegeeing dirt off glass. It took us a couple years to get the deal. But my business partner, Chris, worked this relationship with this one guy who was a decision maker at this one General Motors property for like 18 months. And he would, send him a handwritten note, and then he'd go stop in, and he would pop in and with bagels from Panera Bread. We call it the donut dance or the bagel dance. You're going into property managers, you're meeting people, you're shaking hands and kissing babies. You don't have to get money today. Everybody's so obsessed with getting money. Just know people. Just be a man or woman of integrity and know people, and really good things happen. For sure. It just happens a little bit later.
Yeah, I feel like you have to take a really planned approach to this, because a lot of people hear what you're saying and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to drop off 3 bagels to 3 people, and then all of a sudden they're like, Roland, it didn't work. And I tried 3. Don't you have to do like a little bit to test to see if it works?
I'll tell you exactly how to do it. This is how you do it. I've helped tons of companies do this, and this is how we did it. I even did this with my employees, which I can explain later if you want. But the spreadsheet, here's what you're going to have in the spreadsheet. You're going to have the name of the person that's powerful or influential, or the decision maker, you might call them. Then you're going to have the name of the gatekeeper of that person. So they're going to have an EA, or they're going to have somebody, an executive assistant, that's like stiff-arming you from getting access to the decision maker. So you send an email, doesn't go to them. The EA's job is to be like, go away, no solicitors, right? Well, I want their name. You're going to have their phone numbers, their physical address, their email address, anything you can find online. That's what data mining is. You just get all the data, put it in there. Then you're going to keep track of how many touches you make with these people. So when you have your list of 100, you never stop working the list. All you do is you touch them like every 6 weeks. And not literally touch them, because that's sexual harassment. But what I mean by touch them is an email. The first time could be a touch, a cold email. And, they're not going to email you back. Then you do a voicemail saying, hey, I sent you an email a few weeks back. I was just checking to make sure you got it. I'd love to sit down with you, blah, blah. There's your second touch, maybe a few weeks later. Then you send them lumpy mail. So you don't send them like a postcard, but you send them something that's in a box. You physically spend $10, send them brownies, send them something. And then that will merit another follow-up phone call to say, hey, just make sure you got the thing I mailed you. And you keep doing this on an infinity loop. It's very non-emotional. If you're doing it correct, you don't have to get all worked up. Oh, and by the way, an in-person visit is another touch. So you're just cycling through, email, phone call, lumpy mail, phone call, in-person, email, phone call, lumpy mail. And you're just doing this. And you keep track. You just mark an X every time you touch it. You work through the list. And you do it forever and ever, for always, with no exceptions, no excuses. Now, every once in a while, someone will tell you that they hate you and they want you to die and to leave them alone, and they'll be really mean to you. That will happen. Who cares? But it will happen. You remove them off the list and you add a new person to the list. That's it. This loop right here. You can also have your sales guys, if you're big enough to have sales department, work lists like this, and it can produce insane results for you. But you're right, it has to be organized, structured. It's a system. It's not rooted in emotion. When you're feeling motivated today, you'll drop off bagels and everybody's it's awkward, and then you get freaked out and you never do it again. Of course it's not going to work. It's a long-term, strategic, non-emotional, very logical, intelligent play. That's what it is.
Yep. And for those of you guys that happen to be doing work in property management style condos, HOAs, things like that, one thing you can always do is, as you're going to one of your clients' jobs, on the way, make a touch to someone on your Dream 100 list and say, hey, Josh, I'm just going to get one of the homes kind of in your section here. Because I'm heading over actually to the coffee shop, do you want me to drop you something off? And chances 9 out of 10, they're either not going to pick up, but at least you thought of them. Or if they do, they'll say, no, it's okay, I don't drink coffee. But now you're thoughtful, and it gives you an excuse to do that in-office visit. And if you do get that visit, it's on your way anyways. So there's simple little things like this that you can think of in a systemized fashion that'll help you increase these touches in a very authentic and genuine way. Because if they're inauthentic, it's not going to work, and they will notice. People know when they're trying to be sold. So if you just go there just to deliver value and value and value, and don't ask for business, naturally they'll be like, "What do you do, Josh? Why are you always dropping bagels off?" "Oh, I clean windows in the homes down here." Now all of a sudden, they asked you. It's not like you're pitching necessarily that service to them. So I feel like there's a couple other things that you can do in there.
That's really good. That's really, really, really good. People do not do this stuff because of fear. So I already know right now that 90% of the people even listening to this, they might agree that it's a good idea, but they're not going to follow through with it. So if you're one of the people that can just do it, you will win. I promise you, you'll win. You'll make hundreds of thousands of dollars doing this. I promise you. It just takes a while. You might not get your first reward for 12 months with a strategy like this. But the joint venture marketing that we talked about is more of a transactional, quick hit type thing. That can be really powerful. But again, it's based on relationships. I think in the weight loss industry, in business, and every industry, people want like the magic button, the shiny new thing, like artificial intelligence button that I click it and it costs $1 and it gives me $1 million business or something. But the fundamentals are always going to be the same. It's about, having integrity, playing the long game, knowing your numbers, having tons of relationships that are positive with your partners, your vendors, your clients, and that's how business is done. That's just how it's done. But getting structured and organized with it will go a long ways. And if you're a really small company, do a miniature version of this. So don't get overwhelmed. Try to find one joint venture partner where you guys can do an email to each other's list, and try to find 10 influencers to just commit to for the next 6 months, even just touching every 3 to 6 weeks, and see what happens.
It's about the long game and the lumpy mail.
I know, I like it. I haven't heard lumpy mail, but as soon as you said it, I was like, I know exactly what that is.
What
you want to open it. You want to open it.
My son, I have 5 kids, and my 3 oldest are boys, and I'm like a quote machine. So we're talking about business and things all the time in my house. And my son the other day said, "Dad, it's either easy on the front end and hard on the back end, or it's hard on the front end and easy on the back end," because that's a quote I told him a long time ago that I heard somewhere. And he just reminded me of that quote. And that's true with marketing too. If you want the easy button all the time, you're going to have, very limited results. But if you put in the work, build systems, get at least basic metrics in place to measure and track stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect. But if you'll do that, if you'll spend time targeting the right people, looking at your messaging. Another big mistake small companies make is they try to sound too corporate. So these little businesses want to sound like they're AT&T or something. And it's ridiculous. You don't want to do that. Or I'll get these form emails. Even I live in a really small town, and some of the companies I do business with here, they send me these newsletters where it's like the old ugly HTML email. It's like a blue box, and it's like, "Dear valued customer, over at ABC Service Company," and they just go on and on and on. It's like nobody cares. Delete, right?
Yeah.
Be a human being. When I help small companies write email sequences, for example, I do almost all plain text emails. A lot of the emails I write are one sentence. A lot of times I'll do a misspelling on purpose. A lot of times I'll take their email signature and just and simplify it, right? It doesn't need to be like Jason Smith, CEO of blah, 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 with 7 links to your LinkedIn and all your things. Like
sent from my iPhone. That's another good hack. Sent from my iPhone.
Ooh, that's a great hack.
We do that all the time. And it works because you want to be a human. So be a human. When you send a note to the people in your Dream 100, don't get some fancy thing, like write a crappy, like not crappy, like illegible, but just like write a note with your hand and mail it to them, and then make a phone call and do it to them. Send Jim, my software company, does these ringless voicemails, and people struggle with those because they get so nervous to record themselves with a message. So they'll have to record it like 50 times. And so they wind up with these super overly polished messages like, "Hello and sorry we missed you. This is John with ABC Service Company offering 100% guaranteed satisfaction to all of our clients." And it's like, oh my God, like that's opposite. You should say ums and ahs and be a human being and be imperfect and follow up, and people respond to that.
Yeah, and I feel like an easy barometer. So a lot of people are like, "Well, how do I know if I'm being too corporate-y or too informal?" Think about what you want that person to become to you, and then act the way that you would for someone, which that is. So for example, Josh, if I want you to be my friend, I'm going to talk to you like you are my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, I'm going to get you to that point where we are friends. And if you start off super formal, you're always going to have kind of that formal relationship, even if they kind of click that yes, because the types of people that want that relationship that way will respond to that email that way, and that's what you're going to end up. So think about it, especially as you mentioned those influencers. Just think about the end game for where you want that relationship to go, and start treating it that way. Which is when you're like, oh, one sentence emails. People always, they say, Roland, like first we need like the intro, and then we need like the why, and then the problem and the solution. And like, whoa, just what would you send your friend? And when you said, oh, some misspellings or things like that, I like when I autocorrect to a friend and it's like, oh, it's kind of off, but they'll know what I mean. Sometimes that works. But make sure you represent your brand in a way that's authentic to who you are, and don't try to be someone that you're not.
Yeah, that's really good. And I totally agree. Kind of like at the beginning of this interview, you were telling me before we recorded how you had like 400 pounds of beer delivered to your door, just as a friend to tell a friend. Actually, I was looking at TikTok before, like 5 minutes till, and I'm like flicking through TikTok, and there's this Zoom call, and everybody's professional, and this guy's talking about, so I sent the contract over. Did you guys get the contract? They're like, yeah, okay, you can review it. And then the guy's kid walks in the back, and messes up the Zoom call. He's embarrassed. He's trying to close the deal, and he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they kind of laugh, and he puts the kid back out. The kid comes in again. This time he stands up to go lock his door, and you can see that he's wearing like boxers with a suit on the top, right? So he doesn't realize that they can see that, right? So then he comes back, and they're like, oh, nice boxers. And he's like mortified. And it's like really embarrassing to the guy, until the client stands up and is also wearing like gym shorts with his suit top, right? Because they're all in quarantine.
Uh-huh.
The point is humans are more human-y than we think sometimes, and clients are just humans, and you're just a human, and it's okay to be a human.
I almost want to make Roland stand up right now because I'm almost 100% sure he's in swim trunks.
Board shorts. We're in San Diego. I do have flip flops on. See, look, we got the rainbows. Got the rainbows. You're not in San Diego without them. So
yeah,
in true form.
Also, TikTok has so many great business tips, by the way, Josh. I love TikTok. One of the things I learned about email that I've been doing now, reaching out, and Andrew has been reaching out to guests, put your number in like the subject line. Just put like your number like right before you even say hi, because someone's going to be like, oh, why is this just a number right here? And at least they'll click into it, and then you'll have the message. So that was a TikTok tip I learned.
A good hook, another good hack for all copywriting is hook, story, offer. So, you want to invoke curiosity. If you think about an email, the only part of an email that means anything is the subject line until after they open it. And then the only thing that matters in the body of the email is to elicit either a reply or a click, right? So like you want to frame what you're doing looking, okay, step one, subject line. Step two, the body, like what am I trying to get them? Use a lot of creativity, keep it simple. But you do got to clearly communicate, and that is a complex topic and everything. Copywriting is very, very important.
And before we move on to our next question, one thing that you should be doing all the time, and I do this, is I save emails that catch my attention. I take screenshots of them and I put it into a little file. Email subject lines that catch my eye, CTAs that catch my eye, I just put it into a Slack channel so I can go back and reuse
awesome.
Those.
That's a swipe file. You're a marketer. Alexa, you savage.
Yeah. So let's jump into this next one here, because I feel like what Alexa's doing is like, she's got a learning mindset, but from your experience, what other parts of mindset fall into this? Because I feel like sometimes people go, ooh, I'm going to use exactly what they just said, and I'm going to use the phone number, or I'm going to use the sent from my iPhone. Those are tactics. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily, everyone can do that, and at a certain point it won't work because everyone's doing it. So you need to have some particular mindset to figure out, okay, well, what's that next thing we're going to do? Maybe tell us a little bit about what someone should be thinking about. What mindset should they be in as they're coming up with these things? Because it's part creativity, part grind. Like, how would you describe it?
It's definitely an art and a science. But the good news is that you can do all the things we're talking about here bad and still beat 9 out of 10 other competitors in your local market because they're not doing it. So you need to just think like a marketer. My friend Kurt Kempton, you know Kurt, I think.
Yep.
When he had his cleaning business before he sold it, he said that his business was a customer service company that just happened to clean windows. And I thought that was really cool. But I think all of us need to view ourselves as a marketer who just happens to fill in the blank with your deliverable. So carpet cleaning software, none of it matters. That's the deliverable. You're a marketer. You can't exist without marketing. And there's a lot of guilt and shame around marketing. And that's the truth of it. I talk to people, they're terrified of it. They feel bad. I'll tell you another truth. It's a lot easier to sell somebody else's product or service than it is to sell your own a lot of times because you're super self-conscious. It's very personal. Like rejection hurts if it means a lot to you. Or maybe your friends and family told you you were a loser, or you were in special ed in high school and your teacher said you're going to fail. And now you're out there and without even realizing it, you're self-sabotaging yourself. You're holding back. You're overthinking everything. You're trying to be a perfectionist. These are the types of things that are really the root cause of people getting stuck. The people that I see crushing it, generally speaking, are having fun. And to get into a place where you're having fun is powerful because that's when you can be creative. Imagine I put a gun to your head and I say, write a song. Do it. Write a song right now. I want to write a hook. I want a melody. Go. You're gonna have the crappiest song ever. You have to be relaxed. You have to have fun. And so there's honestly, this is a really important conversation. A lot of people don't like to admit it, right? Because you don't want to appear vulnerable, or people in the Facebook groups will be rude to the guy who's like, I'm scared to sell. And they're like, oh, just man up, buttercup. But it's a real thing for a huge percentage of people. And so what they'll do is they'll watch videos like this all week. They'll buy a course. I've sold gajillions of dollars worth of courses and I put my heart and soul into them. But what I found is that people become perpetual consumers of information instead of producers of results. And so we conflate learning with doing. And so let me give you an example of what I mean. Have you ever went to like a Barnes and Noble and bought a really nice hardcover book, right? Mm-hmm. And like, it feels good to buy a hardcover book. And like, you almost feel, it's like you feel smarter for just possessing the book. It's like
putting it on your shelf.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like, so I say, oh, I want to be sophisticated. So I go buy this fancy, $56 book on global economics, the history of whatever. And I have this thing and I'm like, I am so freaking smart because I have this book. Like, I didn't even read it yet, but I feel like I did something. And so that's what a lot of service businesses do. And look, we make content. Like, we make lots of content and make videos, and I have a podcast and we're doing all this stuff to help. But I want to warn people that at some point you have to stop and apply what you've learned and then kind of go back to step 2. Like, you can't skip steps. And so if you're looking for some magical unicorn fairy dust that's going to give you all of your hopes and dreams, it doesn't exist. Like, you have to do the boring thing that you learned about 2 years ago, but it's like boring to you. You're like, yeah, I know that. Mm-hmm. You ever notice when you talk to business, they're like, yeah, I know. No, I know.
Yes.
But you're not doing it. Your business sucks. You have no money. You're broke. I'll tell you another thing is that whatever's in your bank account is correct. Like, the universe has not conspired against you. There's no conspiracy. Yeah. It's exactly the amount it's supposed to be based on what you've done or not done in your business. And that's like tough love, but it's the truth. And so a lot of people that say, I know, they're skipping all the fundamental stuff and trying to learn the next new sexy thing because it's super freaking fun to learn stuff. And I know, because I'm guilty of it too. I love to learn new awesome stuff. I consume a lot of content, but it can be dangerous.
Yeah, I think consuming and producing, and I also feel like teaching, you need to have a good balance there, because it is really easy to sit here and listen to a podcast, listen to what other people are saying that have done it before, and then feel good about knowing it, but then not doing it. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, if you can force yourself to produce or at least execute or take action on those things that you have learned, that's actually a go forward. And the next step is, can you teach others? Because as you're teaching others, it helps you refine and be like, actually, maybe I wasn't doing it the right way. And then that gets you to do it all over again. So I feel like there's a healthy cycle within there, and you don't just want to be the person that's constantly scrolling, consuming, buying. You also need to do. I've definitely done a bunch of that too. I consume so much content every single day, but then ultimately we have to go produce. And we do shows like this, which is
producers
fun.
Are what pay for everything, right? Every dollar in everybody's pocket. Think about this. Every single dollar in every single person's pocket is there because somebody sold something to somebody for a profit. Okay, so try to deconstruct this argument. Try to play devil's advocate with me, right? Like, literally, sales make the world go round, but people think sales is dirty. They feel guilty and bad about it, but nothing functions without sales. There's no advancement without sales. There's no innovation or technology stuff. There's nothing good that exists without sales outside of like love or something, but like tangible things. And people say, well, no, that's not true, Josh. What if someone has a government job? Well, government drives income from taxation, right? Well, they also create money, but that's neither here nor there. But so
yeah, that's a whole nother subject.
Taxation is because somebody sold something. So like the producers are in a way the most important people in the world. They're the ones getting their hands dirty, creating all the jobs. A lot of people hate job creators, but they love jobs. I don't know how that works, but I view producers, CEOs, founders, people running small companies as the most important people in society because we're funding everybody's lifestyle. I remember the first employee was actually it was the second employee I ever hired in my cleaning company when he bought a house. And how weird it was for me because I had such a small mindset, guys. Like my initial goal when I started cleaning was to make $500 a week. I'm like, I was sitting in my trailer park, all stressed out, like, oh my God, if I can I got to get like 5 customers to pay me like $100, and then I can replace my pizza delivery driver income. And I was all stressed out, right? My ceiling was so low. And anyway, I just, I don't know if that analogy makes sense, but yeah.
It makes sense. With mindset, you said you have to have fun doing it, but I'm just putting myself in the position of someone listening to this right now saying, but Josh, how am I supposed to have fun when I'm stressed out about XYZ, when I need to figure out how I'm going to make next payroll? You can't ask me to have fun in my business right now. What do you say to that person?
Yeah, well, that person's screwed. So no, I'm just kidding. No, I think that
person just stopped listening.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. No, a lot of times when people are trapped in like an infinity loop of negativity, it has to do with the people they spend the most time with, the type of content they consume. It has a profound impact on us, on all of us. If you're listening to doom and gloom all day, if all of your friends are low achievers, they're negative, they're pulling you down, it's going to be very, very difficult. So step one, I would assess who you're letting speak into your life. So this isn't woo-woo stuff, by the way. I hate the woo-woo, cheesy, fake, like guru stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking practical things. So there is a real burden. There's real bills to pay. There's a real wife who's mad that you're not home. There's a real kid who you missed his football game because your employee didn't show up. I get all that. That's very real. But you need to have some positivity speaking into your life. The second thing you need to do is you need to remind yourself what the end game is. So what I have people that work with me do is I have them get super clear on what their quantifiable end result is, the QER, or some people call it your why. And so I'll ask people, like we have a $9,000 coaching program that people buy. And first thing when I talk to them, like, why did you give us money? What are we trying to do here? Like, what's your desirable end result? What are we doing? And they struggle articulating what they want. And so the first step is to define what they want, why they're working so hard in the first place, why it's worth it to miss the baseball game that one time so that you can get to this thing. And we have them define it. So a lot of times people will tell me, well, what we want is we just don't want to struggle anymore. And I'll say, okay, that's not what you want. That's what you don't want. And I'll say, let's go deeper. What do you want? Well, and then long story short, well, we want to be debt-free in the next 36 months, making $100,000 a year, working less than 15 hours a week. Boom. I have something I can work with. We have an endpoint. We reverse engineer. I'll have them make the screensaver of their phone their why, to work less than 15 hours, have 100,000 income, blah, blah, blah. I'll have them tape it on their bathroom mirror where they brush their teeth, tape it on their dashboard of their car where they're driving to work. Keeping what you really want that makes it worth it in front of you and changing your friend group out will go a long ways to turn that around for somebody.
Yeah, when it comes to your why, so we had Simon Sinek on, and he's got a really great TED Talk about that that's been watched I don't know how many times.
Oh, dude, he's so articulate. He probably explained it way better.
Yeah, but he's very, very authentic and deliberate about his why and everything that he does. And so he imagines a world where most of the people they wake up inspired, feel safe, and they're essentially fulfilled by the work that they do. And so a lot of people will throw like their dream board, and they'll have like a Porsche and a thing, and and a money goal, and these kind of components. But in reality, what is that even bigger goal? Because I think it goes back to what you were talking earlier, which is, someone that's having fun at the work that they do, they're going to be able to outperform people that aren't having fun, because it's a grind and they hate going to work. They hate doing the things. Someone that's having fun, it's like, man, it's not easy. It's still work, but you feel
another way to make it fun is to start winning and stop failing. Getting your ass kicked is not fun. And winning is fun. It's really fun to win. I just finished the Netflix series, The Last Dance, a documentary on Michael Jordan.
Yep.
And watching that, it's not like he was having fun. I mean, it was almost like he was so stressed. The burden of him needing to win because he's psychotically competitive. But in a way, that's fun for him. It's like a drug. So people crushing it in business, they get caught up in winning and executing, getting results. I think it's all of those things. Some of it might be genetic. I'm not saying everybody can build a huge, massive company. But I think everybody can improve from wherever they are right now. I think everybody can remind themselves of why it's worth it. I made T-shirts for my entire family, even my 2-year-old, that, I had our designer design that says, it doesn't matter how hard it is. It only matters if it's worth it. That's one of our family isms. It's like part of our family culture. I actually have a book in the other room. I'll grab it in a minute, but it's a book. You know how you can get those hardcover books on like Shutterfly, you design each page?
Yep.
So I made one for myself. It sits on my desk. I have it in the other room in my office. And it's just pictures of different orphanages and stuff that my wife and I like to support. For us, our big why is to give away $100 million to orphans and widows. It doesn't have to mean anything to anybody else. But to us, that is the thing that makes me do hard things when I don't want to do hard things. That is it might take me 50 years to even come a tenth of that close to doing that. That's the thing. And so this book sits on my desk and it says, move faster, work harder, do more, don't stop. They need you. It has all these things and all these pictures, and I keep it in front of me. So I'm not just saying it might be cheesy, but at least I'm living the same cheesiness I'm telling them to do.
I think all humans want to live, a life of purpose. And for many different people, it means different things. Doesn't mean it's any less or worse or whatever than someone else sitting next to you. But that helps kind of drive that forward. So one thing that you mentioned that I've heard you talked about a little bit is for pros, they've really got different ways that they need to bucket things that they need to work towards. So you have their coulds, their could do's. They have their shoulds, and then they have their must do's. Why is this like an important framework that pros should start at least knowing about, or maybe evaluating certain decisions that they're making?
That's such a perfect segue, because the 3 lists, the should, the could, and the must, that only makes sense if you're measuring it against your why. Okay. So the why is the plumb line. Though having a clear quantifiable end result or a why makes all of your decision making much more binary. So think about it like this. You're like, should I get this new truck? Yes or no? Should I hire this employee? Yes or no? Should I take on $50,000 in debt to buy this new equipment? Yes or no? You see, those are all things that you could do. They're sort of valid. And the list of coulds is huge for small business owners. I could sign up for this software. I could switch to this CRM. I could listen to this podcast. I could do this. I could take a day off. I could not take a day off. I could work. It's just this unlimited, gigantic, packed list of things. And most business owners live on this list of coulds. And so they're just kind of smorgasbording it like, I could do this. And they just do random things. The way to focus it and to get big results is you got to move certain things off of the could list over to the should list. And then a few of those things onto the must list. But the only way you can delineate on what needs to go where is to measure it against your quantifiable end result. If you know that in 36 months you want to have this debt paid off and be in this scenario, it's not that hard to reverse engineer back to today in this month, in this quarter, and say, listen, no new expenses. Maybe in this person's scenario, no new expenses at all. I need to maximize profitability, and I'm going to do that by doing this and this and this and this. And so when you have these like options over here, they just become irrelevant because they don't fit. It's like the square peg in the round hole. They don't fit with your quantifiable end result. So it makes it less stressful to grow your business. You're more focused, it simplifies it in a lot of ways, and you don't wind up doing just a whole bunch of weird random things that kind of duct tape together towards whatever end result happens, right?
Yeah. And I feel like, especially when things are must, if you're like, I want to get $1 million in a year. And when you start dividing that up, okay, so $80,000, $83,000 a month. Okay. How much is it per week? Do I need another truck? Well, I must need to focus on getting a truck because I cannot do that many jobs with this 3 trucks. So all of a sudden that decision, that binary decision, which maybe you were thinking about, should you do it, should you not do it, becomes very, very clear. Because otherwise, not get to your end result. And I feel like people have that huge vision in the back or kind of in front of them, but they don't break it down to the steps and then put it through that decision-making framework to then decide should they, should they, or must do.
I love that.
Often a failure.
The other thing that small companies that struggle do is they're always focused on the how instead of the what. And this is a little abstract, but what I mean is like they might need to get that truck, but they get so stressed out on like, how can I make it work? I can't afford it. How? Wait, you need to spend more time just looking at the what, meaning what does my team need to look like? What does my org chart need to look like? Like how many new customers do I need to get per day, per week, per month, per quarter? Like you need to know all the what's, all the metrics. But what people do is they look at the first one, it scares them to death because they don't understand how. And so they stop reverse engineering the plan because they're overwhelmed. Like, oh God, a new truck's $20,000. I only have $500. So never mind. Instead, don't get emotional about it. Look at the what's. All right. I need 30,000 in vehicles. I need 3 more employees. I need this much in equipment. I need this much in marketing. Here's kind of the how to distribute that across the first quarter. You look at it, even though you don't know how to do it, and you just kind of like marinate on it. You change your friend group, you level up some of your thinking and then you can figure out the how. But you at least got to have a plan you don't understand how to do before you can do it, right? So people don't build a plan a lot of times because they get overwhelmed and intimidated by just the first couple pieces of the plan.
Well, perfection is the enemy of done, and so oftentimes if you don't take that first step, then you get lost in taking any steps. And so sometimes, just having those what's in place, you're just going to go take that leap of faith, and build that plane on the way down, off the cliff. Otherwise, you're never going to do it. And you'll probably find more reasons why not to than why you should. Ultimately, it'll force you in the wrong decision.
Well, another one of my favorite quotes is there are a lot of people dumber than you that already have what you want. So like you do not, I'm living proof. You don't have to be a genius to like achieve stuff and have a good life and have some success in business. There's a lot of people dumber than you that already have what you want. The difference with the dumber people is like are you familiar with I think it's called the Dunns-Kruger effect? Or it may not be Dunn's, it's the something Kruger effect. Basically like dumber people overestimate their abilities and smarter people underestimate their abilities. It's a proven thing. And so a lot of people in business that just go for it and they're not like getting their feelings hurt and they're not overthinking it. They're getting these big results. They're running and they're crushing it. And I'm not saying successful people are dumb. All I'm saying is a lot of your local competition that's growing faster than you, they're getting bigger results than you. They're getting the big commercial accounts and you're holding back. It's probably because you need to like downshift your brain a little bit and not overthink everything and and just take action, imperfect action.
So Josh, as you're coaching pros on creating their could, shoulds, and musts, you shared with Roland and I a really great challenge that you do when you are starting to coach people on how to shift their mindset and think outside the box in all different parts of their business. Could you share that with us again?
Sure. Well, it's basically just a simple mental exercise. So if I had to list one thing that's the biggest problem for why businesses can't grow, I know exactly what it is, and it's belief. It's belief. It's a belief issue. They think it's possible, but not for them. And there's lots of reasons why they might think that, but it's a belief issue. And so what I'll oftentimes tell people is, let's say there's a $300,000 business that's been stuck for 5 years. They don't make a lot of money. They're good people though. Their clients love them. They're good. And they'd like to, get to 500,000, but they've tried in the past and it just never works. Something always bursts into flames and falls apart every time they try to grow. So I'll ask them, I'll say, listen, if I told you that I would give you $1 million in cash. Okay. I would pay the taxes on it. I'd wire it to you, visualize in your head, whatever's in your checking account right now, add, 1 comma 000 comma 000, like add that to that money and pretend this is real. I know it's cheesy. Pretend it's real. If I told you I would wire that to you instantly, if you could go out in the next 7 days and get 10 brand new shiny residential customers, and I'll give you $100 budget to get those customers. You just got to go do whatever it takes, get 10 people to hire you for your stuff. You have 7 days to do it. If you succeed, I click a button, the money's wired to your account. I want you to answer me with a yes or no. Would you succeed, yes or no? And 100% of the time they say, yes, of course I would succeed. And then what I'll tell them, I'll say, well, what's funny is, for you to get to 500,000, you just need to add 10 new customers a week through proactive marketing this year. And you just proved to both of us you're 100% capable of doing it. So my follow-up question is, explain to me what you would do. Explain what you would do to get those 10 customers. And what you find is like, people know kind of what to do. Mm-hmm. They don't do it. There's a Bible verse that says, why do I do what I don't want to do? And what I don't want to do, I keep doing. What a wretched man I am. And it's like, I think we all know what that's like. It's like our behavior doesn't match our desires a lot of times. There's self-sabotage. And for some people, they may be good at business, but they're horrible as a husband, or, there's different categories of our life. But usually it's some sort of mental roadblock, a belief issue, or something like that. So that mental exercise logically proves to them you're fully capable of having the thing you just told me that you desire, but you're not doing it. So now let's talk about the real problem. Why won't you go do the thing to get the 10 customers? And then we can start attacking it from there.
I feel like the biggest theme that I keep hearing here is just action, action, action. People know what they do or know what they need to do, or at least have some kind of semblance of, if you gave them a direction, they would go operate against it, but they just don't do it. So there's just this lack of action. So
because of accountability, entrepreneurs live on islands. We don't have a boss. Right. And like, it's a blessing and a curse. So people a lot of times hate their boss. They quit, say, screw you. They start their own thing and they think they're living the dream. But in a way, being accountable to no one is very dangerous. And you can get in a rut really easily. You can lie to yourself really easily, especially if all your friends have achieved less than you. They think you're awesome, but you know that you're just kind of coasting. You're not pushing yourself. You're operating at 10% of your potential. But compared to all of your friends and family, they think you're crushing it. That's not good. If you want to get big results, you got to be in accountability. You got to have some sort of like iron sharpens iron friction happening,
I feel like that's the point of having a good community or a coaching group, and reaching out to like-minded people. You've mentioned many times now, be around, level up your friends, be around like-minded people. It doesn't mean you forget about your old friends. It just means, the 5 people you spend a lot of time with, like, who are they? And are they inspiring you into action? Are they doing things and actually saying they're doing something and then they actually go do it? So that way you start modeling that behavior.
Yeah. And you don't take advice from people you wouldn't trade places with. People got to stop taking advice from Uncle Eddie at Thanksgiving, who's never owned a business. And as he's passing the turkey, he's like, what you should do? You should blah, 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 fill in the blank, unsolicited, pointless, terrible advice. Or they take advice from Facebook groups or just random strangers. They'll ask a question. Should I buy my truck? And this kills me as a person that works with people. They'll ask a question and they'll get 100 answers. The only thing that should be replied to is that, well, it depends, right? Like, should I buy the truck? It depends. We need to tell me what you want. Tell how much cash do you have? What are your projections? What's your seasonality? What's your revenue curve look like? Like, I need to get all this data to even give you a competent answer. Yet on the Wild West of the internet, everybody's like, yeah, blah, 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 buy a Ford, buy that. And so you're getting really precious or potentially destructive advice, and you don't know which ones is which, because there's not like a Carfax report next to people's face on Facebook. Like, this guy you should totally listen to.
That's a great business idea.
You should totally be something.
People facts.
Yeah, it's like, is this person ahead of me or behind me in terms of where I want to go? Because the way you know who to take advice from is if they have got the results that you desire to get. If they have, listen to what they have to say. And if they haven't, probably shouldn't listen to what they have to say, as a general rule of thumb.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That is That's a really good piece of advice, especially on the internet where there's so many people that you may or may not even know, and when it comes back to it, you're consuming a lot of noise, and then you got to filter what's real and what's not. And so in reality,
good list with even more things.
Yep. And now all of a sudden you're drowning in ideas and you're not doing anymore.
Right, because all these people in their mom's basement eating Hot Pockets are just filling your could list up.
So you've got a podcast. You've interviewed a ton of really interesting people that have done amazing things, people that you would definitely take advice from because they have done it and done it 10 or 100 times over. Who is someone, knowing our audience and the people that listen to Pro Talks, that you'd be willing to introduce us to, that we should have on and do the exact same thing we just did together just this past hour?
That's hard to narrow it down to one. But the first one that popped into my head was Brian Scudamore. I don't know if you've reached out to him.
We had him on.
Okay. He was really interesting and had an interesting business. So you already had him. So
willing to fail. I remember that was his.
Another one interesting. I interviewed Clayton Mask, but I don't know if he's like a competitor of Housecall. But he was super
having all
nice.
Kinds of people on. We love having all kinds of people on. This is for the pros.
Was super nice, and he had such a tough story of that business and getting it to where it is, and he's a family guy and he's amazing. But I don't know, I'd have to think about it. I have over 400 episodes, so you caught me off guard with that one.
And finally, Josh, to wrap up our time together today, what last words of encouragement do you have for those pros who are currently maybe stuck in their ways? Maybe they are frozen in time right now because they're just unsure of what the future holds for themselves or their business. What advice do you have for those pros to help them get to this place of action, of implementing all these incredible strategies you've shared with us today and be able to openly accept it and do it and have fun doing it?
I would say get in an accountability group, get around like-minded people. If you can't afford a paid mastermind group, kind of like the Conquer program or something, just make one yourself. You got to get around other people, at least attempting to do big things. You want to be around people trying to do big things. They don't have to be perfect. But you got to be around them. I don't see success at a high level without that. I just don't. I mean, birds of a feather flock together type of thing. I'm in paid masterminds groups. I have been for years. It's huge for me. My software company would have failed if I didn't join. I joined Russell Brunson's Inner Circle. It's really expensive, but it did immeasurable things for my mindset and building my confidence with that business, because that was a different model and it's super hard for me. And so I would say accountability group, and just keep showing up.
All right, so you guys just all heard from Josh this last hour. You shared us, so many golden nuggets. If they want to hear more about you, what you do, where can they find you? Where can they find some of your businesses? This is kind of our chance to give back. And for our pros that are just curious and want to learn more, where can they find you?
Well, the main place they can find us is at automategrowsell.com. There's a bunch of free content on there, courses, different things. We have, over a dozen super successful coaches, all for home service businesses you can reach out to and connect with. We also have a free Facebook group called The Growth Vault. It's a really positive group. We try to curate it so that, we don't tolerate people being jerks for people asking basic questions and things like that. Really helpful group, very active group. So I think there's like 3,000 people in there, but they're all home service companies. They have a lot of fun. And then, of course, the name of my podcast now is The Growth Vault Podcast. It used to have a different name. A couple months ago, I changed it, and I lost 300 5-star reviews on iTunes, which was very depressing. So I'm starting over with the reviews, but it has almost 1 million downloads, and it's a great resource. There's just so much content on systems and mindset and interviews and all kinds of stuff. You can go listen to that for free, and there's just lots and lots of stuff there.
Highly recommend it. It's on my my subscribe list as well. So
yeah,
check it out, guys.
Well, thank you, Josh, for spending time with Roland and I. Know we're probably not as fun as like the wilderness in Alaska, but this was a fun conversation.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Look forward to seeing you next week. For more information, go to housecallpro.com/pro talks.